What's up, YouTube? It's Ryan from AnnihilatorMTG here, and I'm back again with some more Modern. This week, we're going to be going back in time, back to the days when Lightning Bolt was king, and a Lightning Bolt that heals you, now that's something special. That's right, we're going to be playing Jeskai Control. Now, let me be the first to say that this is absolutely not a meta call. If you want to play the best control deck that you can, this build really isn't even in the top 3, but none of that matters. This build is about pure nostalgia. In terms of the actual deck list itself, we're going old school, or at least relatively. So things like Cleansing Wildfire are going to be locked away in the sideboard for now. In terms of new cards overall, I think in the main deck, we are only really playing Triomes, the Forces, and the Charms. Everything else has basically been the same for years. I don't really have too much else to say about this build, other than the fact that I'm pumped to be able to play it again. So let's hop into the first match and see how it goes. Alrighty, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friends, and we won the die roll. This hand is very close to not being good enough, but I think we're just going to try it. We're going to lead off with a Steam Vents tapped, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play an Inspiring Vantage, and we see a Goblin Guide, sure. They swing in for 2. We see a Helix on top. We take the 2 damage. And then we draw the Helix. Let's play the island, and we'll pass. So now, as long as we draw a white source, we should be in a fabulous position. Our opponent plays a Wooded Foothills. It looks like we're going to be drawing a Charm. That's really bad. They crack their Foothills. Then they put a Sacred Foundry into play. Weirdly enough, they decide to play a Swift Spear. That doesn't make any sense. And they pass. We're going to play the Snap for 0 value. Then we draw, get that Charm, and we'll hard pass. As long as we get that white source next turn, we should be fine. Their Rift Bolt comes off of Suspend. They target us. We go down to 13. They draw for turn. They play a Sunbait Canyon. We see a second Swift Spear. They move in for combat. They have a trigger. We finally draw that Arid Mesa. Let's block the Goblin Guide. We trade, take 3 damage. And then our opponent plays an Eidolon. Okay, let's counter with a Mana Leak, and we're pretty much good to go. Let's play the Arid Mesa. We crack it, get a Plains. Then we're going to cast a Helix, hit a Swift Spear, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They basically need triple burn spell to win from here, as they play a Sunbait Canyon into an Eidolon. That's tough. Okay. They swing in for 1. They take us down to 11. We draw a Fortress. Now that's phenomenal. Let's play the Path on the Eidolon. We take 2 damage. They get a Mountain. Let's attempt to Helix the Swift Spear. We're back up to 12 life, and we'll pass. So from here, I really don't know what they can do to actually win. They play a Lava Spike. That takes us down to 9. And then they play an Inspiring Vantage. Nice. We draw Snap. Let's play the Flooded Strand, get an island, then we're going to cast the Teferi. Let's uptick. We draw a Hollowed Fountain. That's a little bit subpar. Then we get to untap, and we pass. They crack their Canyon. Then they draw. There's a couple of configurations where they win on the spot, but they concede. So I think when it comes to burn, we should do more of a transformative approach. We're going to cut a good amount of the top end. And then I also think we're going to cut 1 or 2 lands, probably the fields. Then we're going to bring in the Aether Gusts and Purges. Then we need to make 2 more cuts for the Timely Reinforcements. And I think we can trim on 1 Force and 1 Mana Leak. Now we've got this much leaner approach to Jeskai that I think legitimately they can't beat. Okay, this hand looks pretty good. We'll keep. They start off with a Sacred Foundry, and they play a Goblin Guide. They swing in, we see a Snap, they take us down to 18, and they pass. Let's play the Triome, then we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play a Sunbait Canyon. They swing in for 2. We draw Steam Vents, beautiful. They take us down to 16. They suspend a Rift Bolt, and then they play a Skewer. So we're down to 13. They pass. We draw a second Jace. That's probably the worst card. We're going to play a Mountain, then we pass. Let's ditch the Jace. Their Rift Bolt comes off as Suspend. We're down to 10. They move in for combat. Swing in. The Goblin Guide trigger showed an Opt. Let's flash out a Snap. If the Snap can absorb a burn spell, that matters more to us than actually getting rid of the Goblin Guide. We go to block, and we trade. They cast a Roiling Vortex. We take the 1 damage, draw the Opt, let's play the Colonnade, and we're going to ship it back. They take 1 damage. They play a Vantage. If they have 3 bolts, we just lose. Looks like our opponent's passing. Let's attempt to purge the Vortex. It gets exiled, and they pass just like that. Let's play the Steam Vents tapped. And we pass. They respond with a Lightning Helix. Let's cast an Opt. We see a Colonnade. We'll put that on the bottom. We find a Snap. We take 3, they gain 3, they draw for turn, they play Sunbaked Canyon number 2, then they pass. Let's cast the opt. We see a Flooded Strand. We'll put that on the bottom. Arid Mesa. Then we draw another Flooded Strand. That's terrible. They crack the first Canyon. They draw for turn. They play Canyon number 3. They play an Eidolon. Let's cast the Snapcaster in response. Then we're going to target the opt. We play it. Let's put that on the bottom. We draw a Supreme Verdict. Beautiful. And then we're going to crack the Arid Mesa, find ourselves a Triome. We untap, draw Gust. Let's play a fetch. Then we're just going to cast the Verdict, and we'll pass. They crack the Canyon, then they draw for turn. We see a land. They play another Eidolon. Let's crack the Flooded Strand, play an island. Let's Aether Gust the Eidolon. They put the Eidolon on the bottom, and they pass. Let's play the Flooded Strand. Then we're going to cast the Jace. We Brainstorm. We'll stack both lands on top. They crack the Canyon. That's their third one. They draw for turn. They cast a Goblin Guide. Then they swing in. We're going to flash out the Snap. We draw a Fortress. Then we block. They cast a Lava Spike. That takes us down to 1, and then they play a Skewer. Let's force it, pitching the Charm. We untap, draw land. We Brainstorm, finding a Timely, a Bolt, and a Fortress. Let's play the Fortress. Then we cast the Timely. We're back up to 7, and we're basically good to go. They draw. They decide to pass. We draw for turn, then we're going to Brainstorm. We find a Purge, a Path, and a land. Then I think it's just time for us to get started with a Colonnade. We animate, we swing in for 4, we take them down to 13, and we pass. They play a Skullcrack, they draw for turn, and they pass straight through. Let's Brainstorm. Wow, they're not making this easy on us. Let's animate the Colonnade. We swing in, we take them down to 9, and let's see what they got. They play a Helix. They go up to 12. We're at 1. They draw for turn. They play an Arid Mesa. We draw Sacred Foundry. Let's Brainstorm. They're paying costs. They cast a Skullcrack and move on to the next game. Okay, so I think we're just going to resubmit here. We probably kept a subpar hand, and we're going to need to play just a little bit tighter. We'll go first, and I don't know, this seems fine. That's what we said about the last one, but hopefully this will be better. We're going to lead off with a Triome, then we pass. They draw, then play an Arid Mesa. Looks like they're passing. We draw an island. Beautiful. Let's play the island, then we'll pass in the meantime. They crack the Arid Mesa, getting a Sacred Foundry, and they bolt us, taking us down to 17. They untap and draw, playing a Bloodstained Mire. They crack it, finding themselves a Sacred Foundry. They're down to 14. They play an Eidolon. Let's Spell Snare it. And as crazy as that sounds, that might just get us there. Let's play the opt. We see a Fortress. We're going to put that on the bottom. We draw an island. Then we draw another opt. Let's play the island, and we'll pass. They draw for turn, and they play a Vortex. So we're going to flash out the Snap, target the Spell Snare, we counter the Vortex, they play Wooded Foothills, and they pass. We draw a Snap, good stuff. Let's play our Steam Vents tapped, then we're going to swing in for 2, we take them down to 12, and we pass. They crack their Wooded Foothills, finding themselves a Stomping Ground, they put that in tapped. They draw for turn. They play a Sunbaked Canyon, and they pass. Let's cast the opt. We find a Mana Leak, and we draw Force. Nice. We're going to move in for combat, swing in for 2. We take them down to 9, and we pass. They cast a Lightning Helix. Let's respond with a Mana Leak. Then they cast a Boros Charm, sure. We go down to 13. The Helix fizzles. They draw for turn. They suspend a Rift Bolt, and it looks like they're passing. We untap and draw an opt. Let's play it. We see a Hollowed Fountain. We're going to put that on the bottom. Then we get a Flooded Strand. Let's move in for combat. We swing in for 2. That takes them down to 6. They crack the Sunbaked Canyon. They untap. Their Rift Bolt comes off of suspend. They target us, no problem. They play a Fiery Islet, and then they pass. Let's crack the Flooded Strand for a Triome. We untap, draw an Arid Mesa. Let's move in for combat. We swing in for 2. That's going to take them down to 4. So effectively speaking, I really don't see how we lose from here. They play a Lightning Helix targeting us. We're going to force that. They've got 2 cards left. They crack the Islet. They untap and draw, playing a Mountain. Let's flash out a Snap, target the opt. We untap, draw a Flooded Strand. We move in for combat, swing in for 4, and they scoop it up. GG's. Okay, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friend, and we won the die roll. Since we have 2 cantrips, we can probably keep this hand. Our opponent goes down to 6. We're going to play a Hollowed Fountain untapped, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play a Castle. Oh boy. We're going to cast an Opt. We see another one. We'll put that on the bottom, and we find a Jace. We draw for turn. We find a Force. Let's cast the Opt. We see a Snap. We'll put that on the bottom, and a Triome. All right, we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play the land side of a Symbiosis, and we see an Explore. Think we should go for the tempo play and force it pitching a Mana Leak. They pass. We draw a Flooded Strand. Let's play it, and we'll ship it right back. They draw for turn. They play a Teleria West. They pass. We draw a Force. Not the best thing in the world. We'll pass as well. They draw. They play a Cavern of Souls, naming Nymph. They play a Dryad. Then they play a Boros Garrison. Let's respond with a Path. They find a Forest. They return their Cavern, and they pass. Let's crack the Flooded Strand. We're going to find ourselves a Triome. We untap, draw an Arid Mesa. Let's crack it, find ourselves a Steam Vents. Then we're going to cast a Jace. And I think the best thing to do here is just Fate Seal. They have a Breeding Pool on top, we'll hit no. Because if we can Brainstorm, it doesn't necessarily matter. We're not going to find anything that can stop their Titan, so either they have it or they don't. They play the Breeding Pool tapped, and they pass. Well, this is uplifting. We draw a Path. I guess we're just going to Fate Seal again. We see a Tribe Scout, we'll hit no, and we'll ship it back. They draw their Scout, they play it, they float 2 blue mana, then they return their Teleria West, they transmute, they find a Summoner's Pact. Let's cast the Helix targeting the Tribe Scout, we gain some life, we draw an Opt, let's play it, we find a Fortress, we're going to put that into play, then we Fate Seal, we see an Amulet, we're going to say no, they can actually have that, which is a touch risky, but it's better than an unknown. They play their Summoner's Pact, let's cast the Force, and they scoop it up. Wow, nice. Okay, so when playing against Amulet, I think we want to bring in the Aether Gusts and the Wildfires, and then I think we can actually take out the Mana Leaks and the Helixes. And that should be fine. So I don't think we can reasonably keep this hand. It doesn't really do enough, especially against Amulet. And honestly, this isn't much better. So we're going to try one more time. And this is at the very least something. We're going to keep and get rid of the red cards. Let's see what happens. They play a Forest, and they pass. We draw a Flooded Strand. Let's play it. We'll pass. They draw for turn, they play a Misty, they crack it immediately, finding themselves a Breeding Pool, and they play an Explore. Sure. Then they play a Castle, and they pass. Let's crack the Flooded Strand. We're going to find ourselves a Triome. We untap, find another Triome. Let's play a Fortress, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play a Tireless Tracker. Super gross. We're going to respond with an Aether Gust. They put the tracker on top. We untap, draw a Jace, let's play the Triome, and we'll pass. They redraw their tracker, they play the land side of the Symbiosis, and then do nothing. That's strange. We knew that they put the tracker on top, but they chose to do nothing. All right, we draw a Teferi. Well, let's get things started. We'll play the Jace, then we're going to Brainstorm. We're going to stack Bolt, then Arid Mesa. I can only assume that they did what they did because, I don't know, they're planning apparently a Beast Within. They draw for turn, they play a Cavern of Souls, sure. They name Giant, then they cast the Primetime. Let's see what they find. They get a Teleria West and a Growth Chamber. They return the Teleria West. We untap, draw an Arid Mesa. Let's cast the Supreme Verdict. The Giant dies, and will pass. They draw for turn. They transmute the Teleria West. They find themselves a Summoner's Pact. They cast it. We're going to play Force Pitch Snap. The Pact fizzles. Then they play a Tribe Scout and a Dryad. Let's crack the Arid Mesa. We're going to find ourselves a Sacred Foundry. We untap and draw. Snapcaster Mage. I think we have to pass here. They begin combat. They swing in for 3. That's aggressive. They take us down to 15. They pass. We draw. We find an Aether Gust. That'll do. Let's play the Teferi. They cast a Pact of Negation. All right, why not? We'll hard pass. They have to pay 5. They do just that. Then they draw. They play a second Castle. Then they cast another Dryad. They swing in for 3. That takes us down to 12. And we find a land. Nice. All right, let's crack the Arid Mesa. We're going to find ourselves a Plains. Then we're going to cast the Snap, target the Verdict, and we wipe the board. They draw for turn. They've got 2 cards in hand. They play a Slayer Stronghold and a Dryad. Sure. They pump up the Dryad and give it haste. They take us down to 7. We draw a Flooded Strand. Let's play it. They draw for turn. They activate the Stronghold, swing in for 4. We're going to cast the Aether Gust. They put their Dryad on the top. Let's crack our Flooded Strand, get a Steam Vents. Then we untap and draw. We find a Colonnade. We'll play it and then pass. They draw for turn. they draw the Dryad, they play it, they pump it up and give it haste, then they swing in for 4, they take us down to 2, we draw, we find an Aether Gust, we can make that work. They draw for turn, looks like they're passing. We draw a Wildfire, okay, let's target the stronghold. Then we find a Charm, they draw for turn, they play a Wooded Foothills, they transmute a Teleria West, they find a Valakut. We're gonna have to respond with our Charm. We find a Cryptic and a land. I don't think they're gonna let us have this, but let's try to Gust the Dryad. Oh my god, they let it happen, no way. They could have cracked the Wooded Foothills. Oh, sick. Okay. Well, we don't deserve this, unfortunately. Let's play the Hollowed Fountain, and we'll pass. Do they just not have fetchable lands? I mean, that's impossible, right? They replay the Dryad. Let's counter draw. We find a Force of Negation. Sure. Then we draw Jace. Beautiful. We cast him. We search. Let's brainstorm. We find all lands. Hoo boy. Let's play the field. I want to crack the field targeting the Valakut. Let's find ourselves an island. They failed to find, so maybe they didn't have any fetchable lands. And they scoop it up. GG's. Okay, looks like we found our opponent here. Best of luck to you, my friend. And this hand is a touch basic heavy, but we should be fine. Looks like they keep 7. They start off with a Blood Crypt. They play an Inquisition, and they take the snap. We draw Steam Vents. Let's play the Flooded Strand. We'll pass. They draw. They play a Bloodstained Mire. During their end step, we're going to crack the Flooded Strand, find ourselves a Hollowed Fountain. Then we'll cast the Opt, put the land on the bottom, and we found a Bolt. We draw a Mana Leak. Let's play a Steam Vents untapped, and we'll pass. So far, so good. Our opponent cracks their Bloodstained Mire. They find themselves a Watery Grave. Okay, Grixis. They draw for turn. They play an Island, and then they cast a Lily. Let's counter it with a Mana Leak, and they pass. We draw Triome, let's play an island, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play a Polluted Delta, and then a Snap. In response, we're going to cast Opt, put the Snap on the bottom, we find a land, then we're going to bolt their Snap, and we'll pass. They Inquisition us, they take the last bolt, and then they pass. We draw another Snap, excellent. Let's play the Arid Mesa. They crack their Delta, they find a Watery Grave tapped, then they draw for turn. They play a Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Let's crack our Arid Mesa. We're going to find ourselves a Sacred Foundry. Let's cast the Snap. They play an Opt in response. We're going to target a Bolt, hit their Jace, then we untap, draw Path. Let's play the Plains. We'll swing in, take them down to 14, and we pass. They draw for turn. They play a Polluted Delta. They crack it. Let's see what they get. They choose Blood Crypt. They play a Nicol Bolas Dragon God. Goodness. They're going to downtick and try to destroy the Snap. Let's path it. We find another island. Then we're going to cycle the Triome. We find a Charm. Then we draw Colonnade. And I think we're just going to try to do a Sorcery Speed Charm. We see a Mountain and a Force. Not great. They draw for turn. They uptick the Bolus. Let's get rid of the Mountain. And they're passing. Nice. We find a Lightning Helix. Beautiful. Let's try to Helix the Bolus. They're paying costs. They play a Cryptic. Let's try to force it. The Cryptic gets exiled and the Bolus dies. Nice. We'll pass. They draw. They've got 4 cards in hand. We draw an Opt. Let's play it. Looks like they're paying costs. They're going to counter our Opt with a Charm. That's weird. Honestly, that's one of the strangest things I've seen. So let's animate the Colonnade. We'll swing in for 4. We take them down to 7, and we pass. They play a Bloodstained Mire. They pass. We draw Cryptic. Let's animate the Colonnade. They crack the Bloodstained Mire, find themselves a Watery Grave untapped. Then they cast the Snap. They target an Opt. They play it. They've got 3 cards in hand. Then they cast another Opt. They've got 2 mana left, and they scoop it up. Okay. Well, that was weird. Well, first things first, I think these purges have a ton of potential. I think they're just unbelievably better than the paths. There's also something to be said about Aether Gusts, but I think I like the lanterns a touch more. The question is how many do we want? I think maybe we can trim on like 1 Helix, 1 Bolt. Yeah, I think we're just going to submit like this. I always wanted to play Nicol Bolas the Dragon God in my Grixis lists. I've only ever really played it in Commander, so if you guys want to see that, let me know. We have a hand of 5 lands and some removal. I think we're going to keep it because I have a feeling our opponent's going to be prioritizing hand attack, but we'll have to see. They play a Bloodstained Mire. Nope, and they're passing. Nice. We draw Jace. That's a good start. We're going to play a Flooded Strand. We pass. They crack their Bloodstained Mire for a Watery Grave. Then they draw. They play a Polluted Delta. They crack it. They find another Watery Grave, but they put it in tapped. Okay. Let's crack our fetch, find a Triome. We untap and draw. We find a Mana Leak. That's tremendous. We're going to play and crack a Flooded Strand and find a Hollowed Fountain, and then we'll pass. All right, let's see what you got, opponent. They draw for turn. They play Watery Grave number 3. Sure. They pass. We find a Charm. Let's play an Arid Mesa. We're going to pass. They play a Charm targeting themselves. I think we're going to Mana Leak that. They draw for turn. They play a Blood Crypt untapped. Then they play a Jace Vryn's Prodigy. Let's crack the Arid Mesa. We're going to find ourselves probably a Sacred Foundry. Let's bolt their dude. They're paying costs. They play an Opt. The Jace dies. We draw a Mana Leak. Let's play a Steam Vents untapped, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play a Blood Crypt tapped. Let's try to get them to bite on something. We're going to cast the Charm targeting ourselves. Let's see what they got. They force it. Sure. We draw a Force of our own. Let's play the Triome. Then we're going to cast the Jace. We Brainstorm. That's pretty decent. Let's put the Verdict and the Helix on top. Now we have double force, which is absolutely insane. They draw for turn. See what you got. Is this going to be the bolus once again? And it is. We're going to start with Force Pitch Mana Leak, and it gets exiled. So this is basically over now, in my opinion. Let's brainstorm. We find a Jace Verdict and a land. We'll stack the extra Walker and the board wipe. Then we're going to crack the fetch, find ourselves a Hollowed Fountain untapped, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. They play an Inquisition. Let's play the Cryptic, choosing counter draw. They're paying costs. They play K Command, trying to return their Jace. Sure. Let's ditch the force. Yeah, that's no problem. They pass, we draw. Let's brainstorm again. We're going to put both lands on top. They draw for turn. They cast a Snapcaster, targeting the Inquisition. They play it. We cast the force. Then they play their Jace. We're going to start off by bolting the Jace, and then helixing the Snap. Beautiful. We draw for turn. Land. Let's brainstorm. We'll stack accordingly. Crack the fetch. Find an island. We're going to cast an Opt. Redundant Jace, we'll put that on the bottom. Then we're going to play a Soul Guide Lantern. Let's get rid of the Charm, and we'll pass. They draw for turn. Maybe there's something to be said about keeping that redundant Jace. I don't know. Our opponent draws 2 with a Charm. Then they play an island, and they cast a Lily. Let's pop the Lantern. We find Plains. They uptick the Lily. We ditch the Plains. They lose a K Command. We draw a Fetch. Let's brainstorm. Sure. All right, so we've got a much better hand now. We're going to pass. They draw for turn. They play a fetch. Then they cast a Cryptic, returning the Jace and drawing a card. Sure. Don't actually mind that. They crack their Polluted Delta, finding a Watery Grave. They put that in tapped. We're going to cast an Opt, put the Fortress on the bottom. Then we draw for turn. We find an Arid Mesa. Let's play a fetch. We cast the Jace. Let's brainstorm. We're going to put the lands on top, then we're going to fetch, and we're good to go. They draw for turn. They play an Inquisition. Sure. They take the Snap. During their end step, we're going to return their Lily and draw a card. They counter draw, no problem. Then they play an Opt. We draw a Supreme Verdict. For safety's sake, let's uptick the Jace. We'll hit no, and then we're going to pass. They draw for turn. They uptick the Lily. Let's ditch the Verdict. They have no cards left in hand. We draw Purge, and that'll do it. Let's purge the Lily. Then we uptick. We see a fetch. We'll hit no. We're going to pass, and that should be game. And they scoop it up. GG's. And there we have it. Jeskai Control is always going to be special to me. It represents a time in Modern when thinking about the next SCG Open or GP was all I could do. With that said, this deck is definitely not what it used to be, because honestly, neither is the meta, and that's just how it goes sometimes. I plan on exploring other color combinations with Control. I just need to get my hands on a few more staples before I can do that, so I appreciate your patience. I apologize if the intro and outro were a little bit too brief this week. Honestly, I've been feeling like crap lately, so this is really the best I can do. With that said, I want to thank each and every one of you for your continued support. It means the world to me, especially at times like this. If you like my content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. I really do appreciate it. And as always, stay safe out there and have a good one.